Good morning, everyone. My name is Thomas Dehaze. I'm a PhD student working at the Precision Mechatronics Laboratory in Liège University. Today, I would like to present you some development that Christophe Collet and I have done in order to apply integral force feedback to rotating platforms. Integral force feedback is a popular active damping technique known for its simplicity and guaranteed stability. However, when applied to rotating platforms, gyroscopic effects can render the system unstable, which requires to modify the classical integral force feedback. During this presentation, I will first present you a simple model of a rotating platform with which we will be able to easily understand the physical effects induced by the rotation. Then, I will apply integral force feedback to this rotating platform, and I will show you how the gyroscopic effects renders the closed-loop system unstable. In order to apply IFF to rotating platform, I will propose two system modifications. The first one concerns the control law, while the second one concerns the mechanical system. Finally, I will compare the two proposed modifications and I will conclude. Here is a schematic of a simple model of a rotating platform on which we can study gyroscopic effects. It consists of a rotating stage imposing a rotation with a frequency omega. On top of it is located an XY stage with two orthogonal actuators supporting a payload. The actuators are modeled with a stiffness, a damper, and a force actuators in parallel. The two actuators are along the U and V axis and are thus working in a uniformly rotating frame. Let's now look at the dynamics of this rotating stage. To do so, the Lagrangian formalism is used. Two coupled differential equations are obtained where du and dv are the small displacements of the payload expressed in the rotating frame. Fu and Fv are forces applied by the actuators. We can first see that without rotation, thus taking omega equals to 0, the equations of motion corresponds to two uncoupled mass spring damper systems. We can then see that the platform rotation induces two additional terms. The first one, minus m omega squared, is due to centrifugal forces, and this term can be seen as additional negative stiffness. The second one is due to Coriolis forces and adds coupling between the two orthogonal directions. One way to look at the effect of the rotation frequency on the system dynamics is by looking at the Campbell diagram, which shows the evolution of the real and imaginary part of the poles as a function of the rotation frequency. When the rotation speed is null, the imaginary part of the pole, corresponding to its frequency, is equals to omega 0. As the rotation frequency increases, one pair of complex conjugate poles goes to lower frequency, P minus, while the other one goes to higher frequencies, P plus. When the rotation frequency reaches the undamped natural frequency of the system, omega 0, the real part of one pair of complex conjugate poles becomes positive, which means system instability. Physically, the negative stiffness term, minus m omega squared, induced by centrifugal forces, exceeds the spring stiffness K. Let's now apply decentralized integral force feedback on this rotating stage. To do so, force sensors are added in series to the actuators. Two independent controllers, Kf, consisting of pure integrators, are added to feedback the force sensor signals to its collocated actuator. Here is shown the body plot corresponding to the dynamics from a force actuator to its collocated force sensor. For a null rotating speed in blue, and for increasing rotating frequency in red and yellow. When the rotation frequency is null, the magnitude of the IFF plant goes to 0 at DC. For non-null rotational speed, two real zeros appears in the dynamics, inducing a non-minimum phase behavior. This can be seen on this body plot, where the low frequency gain is no longer 0, while the phase stays at 180 degrees. This can be explained as follows. A constant actuator force induces a small displacement of the mass, which then increases the centrifugal forces, which are measured by the force sensors. In order to see how the rotation speed does impact the IFF stability, we can look at the root locus plot which shows the evolution of the closed-loop poles in the complex plane as the control gain increases. The open-loop poles are shown by crosses, while the open-loop transmission zeros are shown by circles. As the control gain increases, the closed-loop poles are going from the open-loop poles to the open-loop transmission zeros. When the rotating frequency is null, the closed-loop poles are following the blue curve. And you can see that all the closed-loop poles are bounded to the left half plane, meaning the closed-loop system is unconditionally stable. And this is a well-known property of decentralized integral force feedback. However, when the rotating frequency is not null, the closed-loop poles corresponding to the controller integrator are bounded to the right half plane, which implies closed-loop instability. Physically, this can be explained like so. At low frequency, the loop gain is very large due to the pure integrator in the controller. The controller system is thus cancelling the spring forces, which makes the suspension platform not able to hold the payload against centrifugal forces, hence the instability. In order to deal with this problem, I will present you two solutions. The first solution consists of slightly modifying the control law, and the second one consists of adding springs in parallel with the force sensors. Let me present you the first solution. As the instability comes in part from the high gain at low frequency caused by the pure integrators, a first idea is to add an high-pass filter to the controller. This modifies the loop gain that you can see on the left. The blue curves corresponds to the IFF with pure integrators, and the red curves correspond to the IFF with added high-pass filter. The added high-pass filters limits the low-frequency gain. Adding the high-pass filter to the controller is also equivalent as to slightly shifting the controller pole to the left along the real axis. This can be seen on the root locus plot, which is on the right. The pole corresponding to the controller is shifting to the left, and thus, for small values of the gain, the closed-loop pole are on the left half plane, meaning the closed-loop system is stable. However, shifting the controller pole to the negative real axis does also limit the maximum attainable damping. This can be seen by the change of shape of the root locus plots. It can also be shown that the maximum controller gain Gmax, at which the closed-loop system becomes unstable, is proportional to the controller pole shift omega I. Thus, small pole shifting reduces the maximum usable control gain, but also increases the potential damping that can be added. Therefore, there must be an optimal values for the controller parameters. In order to determine the optimal control parameters, the attainable damping ratio shown by the blue line is displayed as a function of the pole shifting omega I. The associated optimal gain at which the maximum damping is attained is shown by the red line. The maximum control gain Gmax, at which the system becomes unstable, is shown by the dashed red line. For very small pole shifting, the added damping is limited by the controller gain. Then, good amounts of damping can be added with the controller gain equals to 2. For high pole shifting, the attainable damping is decreasing. The second proposed way to apply IFF on rotating platforms is to add stiffness in parallel with the force sensors. Here is a schematic of the same previous rotating systems with additional stiffnesses Kp added in parallel to the force sensors. To understand why this additional stiffness will help, let me remind you what was the problem when using decentralized IFF. At low frequency, the alt controller gain cancels the spring forces in series with the force sensor. Then, the centrifugal forces, that can be seen as negative stiffness, renders the system unstable. Here, the parallel stiffness are used to counteract this negative stiffness induced by the rotation and to stabilize the system even when high controller gain is used. Let's now see how does this parallel stiffness impact the system dynamics. First, look at the body plot on the left, representing the dynamics from the actuator to the force sensor. In blue, without any parallel stiffness, in red, with a small parallel stiffness, and in yellow, for a parallel stiffness higher than the negative stiffness induced by the rotation. As you can see, when the parallel stiffness Kp is larger than the negative stiffness induced by the centrifugal forces, the two real zeros are transformed into two complex conjugate zeros. On the root locus plot on the right, having a parallel stiffness higher than m omega squared, bounds the poles of the closed loop system to the left half plane. This means that unconditional stability of IFF is recovered when the parallel stiffness is larger than the negative stiffness induced by the rotation. The value of the parallel stiffness does, however, impact the height-enable damping. Here is shown the root locus plot for three values of the parallel stiffness. It is shown that as the parallel stiffness increases, the height-enable damping decreases. So the general recommendation is to have the parallel stiffness Kp just a little bit higher than the negative stiffness m omega squared. Let me recap. Applying decentralized integral force feedback to rotating platforms leads to instability due to gyroscopic effects. Two solutions are proposed to deal with this instability. The first one consists of adding an high-pass filter to the controller. The second one consists of modifying the mechanical system by adding stiffnesses in parallel to the force sensors. These two methods are now compared in terms of added damping, closed-loop compliance, and closed-loop transmissibility. Here is the root loci plots for the two proposed IFF modifications. In blue for the added high-pass filter, and in red for the added parallel stiffnesses. One can observe that the closed-loop poles of the system with added springs, in red, are bounded to the left half plane, implying unconditional stability, which is not the case for the system where the controller is augmented with the high-pass filter in blue. It is also interesting to note that the maximum added damping is very similar for both techniques, and is actually reached for the same controller gain, G equals to 2 times omega 0. The two proposed techniques are now compared in terms of closed-loop compliance and closed-loop transmissibility. The compliance describes the displacement response of the payload to external forces applied to it. It is a useful metric when disturbances are directly applied to the payload. The transmissibility, on the other side, is defined as the transfer function from the displacement of the rotating stage to the displacement of the payload, and it is used to characterize how much vibration is transmitted through the suspending platform to the payload. The two techniques are also compared with passive damping in yellow and without any damping in black. Very typical results are obtained. IFF degrades the compliance at low frequency as compared with the passive damping, and IFF does not degrade the transmissibility as it is the case with passive damping. It is interesting to note that very similar results are obtained for the two proposed IFF modifications, even though their implementation are very different. That concludes my presentation. I hope it was interesting for you, and I look forward for your questions. You can also contact me by email and access all the materials that was used to make this study with the link provided on this slide. Thank you.